What's up, everyone? Welcome back to AppleTree Surfboards, and today we've got a special guest. We've got Mr. Jon Mann in the house.
All right, how's it going, guys? Am I taking this?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
just starting you off. So yeah, today we're going to talk about, we do a bit of a longer tech talk video about the new Apple Skipper Downwind V2 that we've developed together with Jon over the last more than a year, I guess. So we're just going to run you through a couple of the design features, how the board's new from the old version, and then talk with Jon about how he worked with us, with me, and with Jorrit on the design of this board and how we got here, essentially.
Yep.
First question, so you were doing pretty well on the V1 version. What was your first question to Jorrit when it came to like design, and what would you, what were you asking for, what to change in that board?
Yeah, so I think the main thing that, me and Sam as well, we were talking about the V1 a lot was that we missed a bit of the rocker. So I think the biggest thing that you know when you look at the V2 is it's got a much nicer rocker line. There's a little bit more rocker in the front and a little bit more rocker in the tail. That helps you just kind of rock the board, gives you the clearance in the tail when you're turning, and it's just a less flat board in general. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that me and Sam were bouncing off each other and feeding back to Jorrit. So
and what would you say is is there also an advantage of having a straighter rocker line in the board?
It does give you a little bit more speed, but I think when you're in the bumps, having this rocker just helps you get up, and it gives you more clearance when you're turning as well. So yeah, for me, and also the change in the rocker line allows you to have your volume distribution kind of where you want it. So we have a much better volume distribution now, with most of the volume around the standing area, around the back here. And it also helps you reduce your swing weight at the extremities of the board, because the board can be thinner whilst retaining volume in the shape.
Then next to the rocker line, we see a basically redesign of the bottom. I think the Skipper identity of the board is still here if you compare it to our other Skipper models, like the newly released mid-length and also the Skipper wing. But it is quite different from what it was, and there were a few iterations along the way that I've seen. Why did you guys end up on this final design in terms of how the bottom shape is?
Yeah, so I think the tail is very Skipper. You know, this like pulled in with the point. It's part of the Skipper identity. I think initially when it was scaled from the smaller boards, we found it to be like a little stickier because it was a bit wider at the back. So what we've really done for the SUP is it's just been pulled in a lot more. This hard rail's been pulled back as well, with the tail being more pulled in and keeping the point at the back. It gives you really good release. And I think that was something that in the V1 that maybe we didn't quite have 100%, but I think now we've got a much better tail, really more downwind specific. Yeah, keeping the Skipper DNA.
I see this hard rail is, one, it's much harder, but it extends also to the front. So why is it also extending here?
Just to aid in release. It really does help the board go faster and come off the water faster. There's actually a really subtle V in the nose as well. And that kind of comes from the Profoil, I guess.
Yeah.
And it really just helps the board accelerate well and then come off the water well. Yeah. A lot of people will say, maybe this rail grabs, but it's not just the hardness of the line, but also like the bevel and the way that the bottom's shaped. So it isn't actually as grabby as people would think.
Yeah. What it does essentially is like you have this V in the front, which displaces the water to the sides, and then this hard edge helps it shed the water. So when you touch down, the water goes off like this, and it doesn't move along the board. And then also you can see in the tail here that the V is sort of in the front and in the back. And in the middle, there is still a bevel here moving the water to the sides constantly. And then here it's accelerated. So the rail rocker there's a much more rail rocker than there is centerline rocker. So that balance, that took us like a lot of design iterations to get to this final design in this rail. And I think you guys are both super happy now on the final design. That's Jon and Sam Shannon in the US, who's unfortunately not here, but he also played a large part in the designing of this board. I think moving on to the rest of the board, we updated a few things on the construction as well. So these boards now are a lot lighter than they were. We achieved this by using a new finish method. It just makes the whole board a lot lighter. Like it's way better and more responsive. We did add reinforcement in specific locations, so especially where your paddle is prone to hitting the board, especially these hard rails. You'll see on the boards there's an extra sort of tape line on there, so it really helps when you hit this rail, it won't crack. Again, these boards are still made from our waterproof 50K foam. So if you do crack it, there is no issue. It doesn't take up any water, doesn't soak up any water like a light TPS board would. But we also wanted to make these rails super strong. Like these hard edges are quite strong. This board, Jon has used it quite a bit already. You can see there's some scuff marks there, but there's no visual damage or anything, especially in those hard edges where you tend to hit the board quite a lot. So we just flip it over, or let's first talk about the sizing a little bit, because there's some changes there as well. So what's the size that you're currently riding, and for what conditions do you choose what size?
Yeah, so I've got two. So I've got the red one on my Instagram, and this is the orange one, I guess. So this is 8.0 by 17.7. The production size will be 17.5. And this is my race board, and then the 7.4 is a 7.4 by 18.5. It's 105 liters. And that's kind of my all-round fun board.
So not only downwind, also subfoil.
Yeah, subfoil it, I power wing it. I use it for everything pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's awesome that these boards now go up to 8 foot.
Yeah.
I think that's been a big question that a lot of people have been asking. A lot of people be stoked with that. Yeah, and they range from 7, 7.4, 7.8, and 8. And the widths are vary between 17 and 20.
Yeah, so to just add to this, we have updated our machinery specifically for these for making more of these boards. So we had to buy essentially new CNC machines to accommodate bigger foam, and then also had to work with our foam supplier, because before they were not able to produce foam. Our foam that we have is specifically formulated for us, so they couldn't do it in the thickness that we require. So we were literally gluing up multiple blanks, stacking them together. And now we have longer and thicker blanks, so we can accommodate more shapes. So these boards, the sizing is a little different than you're probably used to. We've got 4 stock sizes. They are sort of in the middle of the sweet spot that we think works for most people. But then if you want to move away from the stock sizes, you can choose any length with any of the standard widths, which are 6 different widths from 17.5 to 20 inch wide, with any length from 7 to 8 foot. Well, we say 7.0, 7.4, 7.8, and 8.0. So those 4 are the standard sizes. And then we pre-made all the shapes. So we don't charge you extra for getting a custom. If you order a custom, you can literally choose your length and your width. And then the accommodating, like the volume is standard with that allocation. So we have the 4 stock sizes that work for most people. But then keep in mind that you can contact us and get your specific size, which it's something we did because there's so many different conditions and people with different wishes and different conditions where they ride most of the time. So it's either like you're riding all the super short bumps here in the lakes and in the North Sea. Sam's riding shorter bumps, but usually higher in Hood River. That's a very unique spot in terms of how the bumps roll. And then of course there's people riding offshore, bigger swells with smaller bumps in between. They might want something narrower and longer, and someone else might something a little shorter, wider, that's more fun, more quick to turn. So we want to accommodate all of those wishes, which we do now.
Yeah, so this will be my Maui board.
Yeah, the race monster. So this is also not the stock size; it's the longest length and the narrowest width.
Yeah.
So it's actually furthest away from the standard stock size. But
yeah, and I'm about 78 kilos for anyone that's wondering. So this is 105 liters, 107 liters.
Yeah, so this is pretty, I guess this is really hardcore narrow. I wouldn't be able to ride this board or stand on this board.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's flip it over. So yeah, a couple things on the deck. You can see that the standing area is slightly recessed. From a construction point of view, the standing area, we now feature a honeycomb skin underneath the standing area, similar to what we do in some of the kite boards. The boards are already stiffest board on the market by a long shot, just because of our construction and the way it's made with only carbon and a really stiff base foam. But we managed to stiffen up even more, especially around this standing area where you feel the most flex. So this is now rock solid. You don't see it because it's covered by this pad, but it's a really, really extra strength. It also eliminates any knee denting or any denting essentially in the board. And then there is this sort of step here and there. Is there something you can sort of explain about this for us?
Yeah, so there's a slight recess in the deck here. Brings your feet closer to the foil. So it gives you an even more direct feel combined with the honeycomb. So the hex deck. So really, you're pretty much as connected to the foil as you can be for one of these boards. It pretty much feels like you're riding a prone board. And then in the step deck that we've got, there's a slight angle in it. We found that a lot of, myself and Sam, we were shimming our foils so that we'd be riding nose up for a little bit more control at speed. So, that creates drag on the bottom. So we thought, well, you know what, we'll build that feel into the deck. And as a result, we now have a board that when you are riding, you have way more control. When you're going faster, it's nicer to surf. And your foil doesn't have to be, angled the other way and actually points down when would have been pointing down when you're on the water. So really it's a more elegant solution to get the feels that we wanted. So yeah, that's the main thing. And then it slopes off to the side, or it slopes off in a way that, you don't get any pooling in the deck.
It moves a bit odd because there's like this little bump moving up here. That's purely for the water to shed away from the board. So if there's a little pooling, it will immediately run off the board. So this is a bit of a quirky design feature, but it's really there just to release that water. It does run up here. Do you actually sometimes move your foot back here so it feels a bit like you're on a kicktail?
Yeah, so it's like you've got a kicktail as well. So it's pretty much like a bit behind my mass, so exactly where I'd want my foot if I was going to turn. So you step back and then you feel it, and then that helps you with your turns as well. So yeah, it's super nice. We also did move the boxes forward slightly in this board. There was a lot of feedback from people that they wanted the boxes slightly more forwards. So that's another little adjustment as well. But yeah, overall, I think it sits perfectly.
Yeah, cool. I think that's about it. Yeah, so any other questions you might have, shoot us an email. You can also find Jon on Instagram. He's always very keen to answer any questions you guys might have, so you can shoot him a direct message. Email us with any stuff you want. Board's out now, it's available. We're ready to produce them for you. Mostly we'll do a lot of customs. I think this board will have a few in stock, but only a few just because of all the size options. It will mainly be a custom, but we can do a pretty quick turnaround with usually around 8 weeks. We can have your board done and have it shipped. We ship them all over the world. So yeah, get in touch, get your next magic board. Thanks, Jon, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. It's been good talking about your board, seeing your stuff. So I hope to see you guys next time, and cheers.
Thanks, guys.